Okay, I wanted to finish up the rest of this chapter I was reading. Like I said, we started off talking about self-love, self-care, and basically healing yourself, healing your life. I got this book from Louise, and she talks about how all the conditions, any pain or sickness or anything that you're dealing with, it comes from, basically it comes from your thoughts that you have in your mind. So I wanted to finish up reading the chapter. Okay, so this is chapter one. I'm still in chapter 1. All right. However, I would not blame our parents for this. So I left off, it was talking about how our thoughts are formed from how our family treated us, whoever we grew up with, grew up around. That's how our thoughts about ourselves are formed. But anyway, let me continue. Anyhow, we are all victims of victims, and they cannot possibly have taught us anything they did not know. If your mother did not know how to love yourself, or your father did not know how to love himself, then it would be impossible for them to show you how to love yourself. They were doing the best they could with what they had been through as children. If you want to understand your parents more, get them to talk about their own childhood. If you will listen with compassion, you will learn where their fears of rigid patterns come from. You will learn where their fears and rigid patterns come from. Those people who did all that stuff to you were just as frightened and scared as you are. Believe that we choose our parents. Each one of us decides to incarnate upon the planet at a particular point in time and space. We have chosen to come here to learn a particular lesson that will advance us upon our spiritual evolutionary pathway. We choose our sex, our color, our country, and then we look around for a particular set of parents who will mirror the patterns we are bringing into work into this lifetime. Then we will grow up. We usually point our fingers accusingly at our parents and whimper, "You did it to me." But really, we chose them because they were perfect when we wanted to work on overcoming. We learn our belief systems as very little children, and then we move through life creating experiences to match our beliefs. Look back on your own life and notice how often you have gone through the same experience. Well, I believe you created those experiences over and over because they mirrored something you believed about yourself. It doesn't really it doesn't really matter how long we've had a problem or how big it is or how life-threatening it is. Okay? The point of power is always in the present moment. All events you have experienced in your lifetime up to this moment have been created by your thoughts and beliefs you have held in the past. They were created by thoughts and words used yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10, 20, 30, 40 more years ago, depending on how old you are. However, that is your past. It's over and done with. What is important is this moment. It's what you're choosing to think, believe, and say right now. For these thoughts and words will create your future. Your point of power is in the present moment, is performing the experience of tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, and so on. You might notice what thought you were thinking at the moment. Is it negative or positive? do you want this thought to be creating your future? Just answer and be aware. Okay. The only thing we are dealing with is a thought, and a thought can be changed. No matter what the problem is, our experience are just outer effects of our thoughts. Even self hatred is only hating a thought you have about yourself. You have a thought that says, I'm a bad person. The thought produces a feeling. You buy into the feeling. However, if you don't have the thought, you won't have the feeling. And thoughts can be changed. Change the thought, and the feeling must go. There's on This is only to show us where we get many of our beliefs. But let's not use this information as an excuse to stay stuck in our pain. The past has no power over us. It does. It doesn't matter how long we have had a negative pattern. The point of power is in the present moment. What a wonderful thing to realize. We can begin to be free in this moment. Believe it or not, we do choose our thoughts. We may habitually think the same thought over and over so that it does not seem we're choosing the thought. But we did make the original choice. We can refuse to think certain thoughts. Look how often you could have refused to think a positive thought about yourself. Well, you can refuse to think a negative thought about yourself as well. It seems to me, it seems that everyone on this planet, it's it's scratched out. That's why it's hard for me to read. Whoever was reading, not scratched out. They wrote it over. Okay. It seems to me that everyone on the planet whom I know or have worked with is suffering from self hatred and guilt to one degree or another. The more self hatred and guilt we have, the less our lives work. The less self hatred and guilt we have, the better our lives work on all levels. Okay. So, we're going to continue. I might read another page and then I don't know what's it. The innermost belief for everyone I have worked with is always, I am not enough. We often add to that, and I don't do enough, or I don't deserve. Does this sound like you often saying or implying or feeling that you are not good enough? But for whom and according to whose standards? If the belief is very strong in you, but if the belief is very strong in you, then how can you possibly have created a loving, joyous, prosperous, healthy life? Somehow, your main subconscious belief will always be contradicting it. Somehow, you would never quite get it together, for something will always be going wrong somewhere. I find that resentment, criticism, guilt and fear cause more problems than anything else. These four things cause major problems in our bodies and in our lives. These feelings come from blaming others and not taking responsibility for our own experience. You see, if we are all responsible for everything in our lives, then there is no one to blame. Whatever is happening out there is only a mirror of our own inner thinking. I'm not condemning other people's poor behavior, but it's our beliefs that attract the people who will treat us in this way. If you find yourself saying, everyone always does such and such to me, criticizes me, is never there for me, uses me like a doormat, abuses me, that this is your pattern. That's deep. There is some thought in you that attracts people who exhibit this behavior. When you no longer think that way, they will go elsewhere and do something and do that to somebody else. You will no longer attract them. Following are some results of patterns that manifest on physical level resentment. As Let me go back. Resentment that is long held can eat away at the body and become the disease we call cancer. Criticism as a permanent habit can often lead to arthritis in the body. Guilt always looks for punishment. Punishment creates pain. When a client comes to me with a lot of pain, I know they're hiding a, a lot of guilt, fear, and tension it produces. It can create things like baldness, ulcers, and sore feet. I have found that forgetting and releasing resentment will dissolve even cancer. While this may sound simplistic, I've seen and experienced it working. Okay, so once again, this is Louise Hay. You can heal your life. It's talking about how our thoughts are the cause to disease. Okay, so I'll read a few more minutes. I'm almost at the end of the chapter. I'll just finish the chapter. We can change our attitude towards the past. The past is over and done. We cannot change that now. Yet, we can change our thoughts about the past. How foolish for us to punish ourselves in the present moment because someone hurt us long ago. I often say to people who have deep resentment patterns, please begin to dissolve the resentment now when it is relatively easy. Don't wait until you're under threat of a surgeon's knife or on your deathbed when you may have to deal with panic too. When we are in a state of panic, it's very difficult to focus our minds on healing work. We have to take some time out to dissolve the fears first. If we choose to believe we're helpless victims and that it's all hopeless, then the universe will support that belief and we will just go down the drain. It's vital that we release these foolish, outmoded, negative ideas and beliefs that do not support us and nourish us. Even our concept of God needs to be one that is for us and not against us. To release the past, we must be willing to forgive. We need to choose to release the past and forgive everyone, ourselves included. We may not know how to forgive. Go back. We may not know how to forgive, and we may not want to forgive. That's deep. But the very fact that we are willing to forgive begins the healing process. It is imperative for our own healing that we release the past and forgive everything. I forgive you for being the way I wanted you to be. I forgive you and I set you free. I forgive you. Let me go back because I messed it up. I forgive you for not being the way I wanted you to be. I forgive you and I set you free. The affirmation sets us free. All disease comes from a state of unforgiveness. Whenever we are ill, we need to search our hearts to see who it is we need to forgive. The Course in Miracles says all disease comes from state of unforgiveness, and that whenever we are ill, we need to look around and see who it is we need to forgive. I would add that concept that I would add to the concept the very person you find it hardest to forgive is the one you need to let go of the most. Forgiveness means giving up and letting go. It has nothing to do with condoning behavior. It's just letting go of the whole thing. We do not have to know how to forgive. All we need to do is be willing to forgive. The universe will take care of the house. We understand that our own pain. We understand our own pain as well. How hard it is for most of us to understand what that they, whoever, will need the most. Okay, let me start it over. We understand our own pain as so well. How hard it is for most of us to understand that they, whoever they are, need most and foremost to forgive. We're also in pain. We need to understand that they were doing the best they could with the understanding, awareness, and knowledge that they had at the time. When people come to me with a problem, I don't care what it is: poor health, lack of money, unfulfilling relationships, or stifled creativity. There is only one thing I ever worked on. That is loving the self. I find that when we really love and approve ourselves exactly as we are, then everything in life works. It is as if miracles are everywhere. Our health improves, we attract more money, our relationships become much more fulfilling, and begin to express ourselves creatively in fulfilling ways. All this seems to happen without us even trying. Loving and approving yourself, creating space of safety, trusting, deserving, and accepting will create organization in your mind, create loving partnerships in your life, attract a new job and new, better place to live, even enable your body weight to normalize. People who love themselves and their bodies neither abuse themselves or others. Self-approval and self-acceptance in the now are main keys to positive changes in every area of our lives. Loving the self, to me, begins with never criticizing ourselves for anything. Criticism locks us into the very pattern we're trying to change. Understanding us, being gentle with ourselves, helps us to move out of it. Remember that you have been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving yourself to see what happens. In the affinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. I believe in a greater power than I am that flows through me in every moment of every day. I open myself to the wisdom within, knowing that there is one intelligence in this universe. Out of this infinite intelligence comes all the answers and solutions, all the healings, all the new creations. I trust this power and intelligence, knowing that whatever I need to know is revealed to me, that whatever I need comes to me in the right time, space, and sequence. All is well in my world. So that's the end of chapter 1. Louise, how you can heal your life. And I think it's an excellent book. And it just, like I said earlier, it breaks down. In another video, I said this book breaks down basically The cause of disease is our thoughts and what we believe and think about ourselves, and that's what causes all disease. Is thought forms, bad thoughts or negative thoughts that we have about ourselves. So, like I said, get this book. If you're working on, if you want to practice self-healing, and I'm going to keep on reading, keep on studying, and I hope you tap into this healing, self-healing energy also. I love you. See you next time.